to go live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Caliber Corner Weekly Edition. It is Thursday. It's 6 p.m. Central Time here in God's country, Nebraska. I've got a wonderful panel joining us this evening, and tonight we're going to talk about the AR-15. Is it really necessary to spend, say, $1,000 or more to get a quality AR-15? Yes or no? Now, again, we can have varying opinions on the panel tonight. It'll be interesting to see where everybody's coming from. On my channel, I've shot everything from the $400, bargain basement DPMS Oracle, all the way up to the $1,500, $1,600 Daniel Defense rifles and beyond. So I've had a chance to really sample a breadth of different rifles on the channel, and I'm really kind of looking forward to sharing my experiences with you guys and what to expect. So anyway, before we do that, we'll go ahead and let the panel introduce themselves, and we'll give a little shout out on the YouTube side. And just a quick heads up, this will be my last Thursday night episode for a while. Work is starting back up again on Monday, and so I'm going to be busy during the week. When things slow down a little, I'll start bringing the evening episodes back during the week. So apologies, but if you're new to the channel or new to the series, just type in Caliber Corner weekly episodes or Caliber Corner Weekly Edition, and you'll see all the episodes we've done so far. And we're still doing the Saturday morning episodes. Those are 8 a.m. Central Time, and we'll have an episode on Saturday. It's going to be episode 243, and we're going to talk about the 243 Winchester, also known as 6mm NATO. So before we do that, we'll let the panel introduce themselves. So let's fire it up. First up, we got Squibload. Squibload, what is new in your world? How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Just coming to you live from work as usual.
There you go. And as somebody that kind of has, a feel for how manufacturing works, I'll be kind of looking forward to your input on, quality of the guns and parts and components. What do you think is true and what's not true? And is stuff all hype and this and that? So it's good to have you with us. Again, guys, Squib's got a great channel. Make sure you check it out. And it's good to have him here this evening. And again, it's always good to have you on the show. All right. Also joining us, we've got New York Outcast, also known as Rob D. Rob, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining us, everybody out there. Looking forward to hearing a bit about this conversation here.
Oh yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because myself, I've invested in some high dollar ARs, and is there really any difference between that and stuff that's on the lower end? I don't know. Now, Rob, while I got your attention, rnldisplays.com. So you're not a channel sponsor, but you did send this to me as a tester for the channel, and I really do enjoy it. So this is one of the styles of the wooden stands that you manufacture with your company. What can you tell us about the R&L displays, gun displays? What do we need to know?
Basically, I have plenty of AR platform. Anything that takes an AR mag, basically, pretty much will fit on that display. Plenty of those in stock, different colors. The PCC, meaning like Glock mag, PCCs, pistols, things will also have displays for that. Some of the 22s with the AR pattern, you'd have to check compatibility, but there is several that fit on the pattern we have available for that. There's also some handguns available. Some of those are short or out of stock. All basically made by me here in America. If you're interested in American-made display, definitely check out the website.
So that's rnldisplays.com, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, cool. Make sure you guys check it out. And once in a while, you have some really good deals on things, and it's always really cool to have those options. And again, appreciate you putting that content and putting those items out there for people. And good to have you on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Also joining us somewhere far out east, we've got Single Shot. Single Shot, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, we're doing all right. I'm sitting here casting a few bullets. Of course, I can't show that here, but we got some 6.5 150 grain. That's a very long pointed flat tip, I guess you'd call it. And I'm going to try some of them here in the near future and see how they work. So got a load taken off tomorrow. I've got to head down to Georgia with a load of roll paper, so we'll be leaving out of here. I got a lot of stuff done around the house here this time.
Cool.
Got
cool.
the yard all cut and everything, so that's taken care of for a while longer. And done housework, working around the house, doing stuff that I have to take care of. So with that, pretty much just be riding along here and listening to you guys.
Sounds good, man. Oh, it's always good to have you here and just,
Thank you.
share your life experience and all the years that you've had shooting and stuff. You've probably seen some great guns and you've probably seen some not so good guns. So it's always nice to get your opinion on things too. So it's good to have you here, man.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we've got Hillbilly Up, aka American Hillbilly. Hillbilly, what's going on? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, buddy.
That's right. That's right. Having a good week?
Oh, yeah. We got some rain here in Ozark Mountains and things starting to green back up. But bad thing is I have to go back to cutting my grass again,
Oh, man. It's pretty hot over in your neck of the woods, or what? We're pushing. We've been up in the mid 90s and it's just been crazy humid. I think we've got some of that southeastern weather going on in Nebraska right now. It feels like Thailand outside right now, dude. It's crazy.
A lot of humidity too here.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Hey, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about your channel? If somebody wants to go over there and check it out, what's it all about? They type in Hillbilly Up and it'll pop up. What do we need to know?
Well, it just the hillbilly grew up shooting guns and just having fun and stuff. And so, along with, I try to incorporate a little bit of a review, but not near anything like a lot of these guys can. Anyway, and we just try to maybe shoot some different guns and have a little fun doing it. We sure like to get rid of hard seltzer, kind of on a quest to get rid of hot bear and hard seltzer.
One less White Claw on the planet. It's always a good thing for everyone, right? And this is coming from me.
I mean, I've got people sending me the hard seltzer now.
Wow. You should contact White Claw and let them know that you have a sporting outdoors lifestyle channel and you'd really love for some sponsorship for your channel. And they probably wouldn't even investigate your content. They're like, yeah, there you go. And the truck rolls up out front,
You betcha. Yeah.
Oh man. Yes. Well,
we're actually did a video the other day. We'll post it this next week though. It's about what caliber does it take to make avocado toast.
Oh, interesting.
So
are we talking about how to like what can split the avocado in half?
Yeah.
And then what can are you gonna put the bread on the barrel?
Yeah.
With like a rubber band and then toast the bread?
Yeah, we got the avocado sitting on a screw on a board and then the toast hanging right behind it. See what spread we get, starting from a smaller caliper to a larger
do you want to go
caliper.
subsonic because you really want that slow slice, or do you want to go supersonic to have that splitting effect? That could really be a challenge.
A good splatter, and then all you gotta do is add a little salt and pepper. You got your breakfast, you're on the way to go,
So take the bread, put the toasted slices of bread on the sides of the avocado, like on forks, and then shoot the avocado and then you're all set. Is that pretty much what it comes down to?
Well, pretty much.
Man,
actually, I was
Hillbilly's got it all figured out, man. And I mean that politely. That's right.
I was surprised. I'm thinking, so you're getting ready to go in the morning, and you take your piece of toast out there and avocado, and instead of having to dirty up some dishes, is it going to be 11 cents for a 22 shell or $3 for a 357 Magnum?
Or the wife wants a $120 KitchenAid toaster. Why go spend the money on a toaster when you've got the 22 just sitting right by the door?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Yeah, we just like to have a lot of fun and entertain people. So we hope we're doing that.
I haven't done enough go ahead. Go ahead, Single Shot.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Check on my channel here on YouTube there and look for the one that's called Watering the Lawn. You'll get a kick out of that one.
I sure will, buddy.
Here's a comment from Defense Dad. Just use 20 gauge with rock salt. It'll season your avocado and mash them at the same time. Look at that.
Yeah, and then we can go over to the Reloading channel and see when we mix rock salt and pepper together, maybe a little lime in there, then it'll all be right there.
There you go. And then maybe, I was going to say, you're doing avocado, not guacamole. You should try to do like a guacamole where you just shoot all the ingredients and try to catch it like in a bowl on the sides or something, and try to see if you can just do, it's like electricity-free guacamole production, like a good way to lower your utility bills this summer.
There you go.
Why do guacamole when you could do guacamole?
Guacamole. Guacamole. What caliber of Glock would make the best guacamole? You should do it for Glocktober.
That might just be our next video.
Just stay with us, and we'll come up with a lot of just mindless content, because that's the key to winning on YouTube is the mindless content. Don't put too much effort into it. And there you go. Oh, man. So Mad Sexy out there says seltzers, yuck. Calaveras 32 Special says that sounds like fun. So let's give a quick shout out to everybody watching on the YouTube side. We got Defense Dad. We got Calaveras 32 Special, Mad Sexy out there. We got Doobie Antimano out there also watching. Chris from the 740, Fluffy 10mm Jeep Guy, Tactical Fuds out there. DJ Play Nice is in the house. Tommy Gunn is joining us from up north, up in Canada. We've also got Irish Wristwatcher out there today. Let's see who else. Watt 75's watching. Defense Dad's watching us today too. Kingpin, Mountain View. We got all the usual suspects paying attention right now. So the topic, the reason why I wanted to have this discussion is because I get a lot of comments on my videos, and I try to respond to as many as I can. I mean that sincerely. If you go back and look at my videos to people that posted comments, I try to respond. And a lot of them I don't ever see, but a lot of comments I get, there's people say, well, how's this holding up? Or have you had any issues with it? Or, is this worth buying? Or I'm thinking about buying this or thinking about buying that. I'm looking at Mountain View, who's out there. Mountain View had made a comment that Mountain View had bought his first AR-15, paid $400 for it. First range trip today, very excited. Said he did have an issue with one steel case round getting stuck in the chamber. So, that can happen on any gun. But the thing is, do you really need to spend a lot of money on an AR-15? Now, when it comes to the AR-15s that we buy, sometimes it's brand loyalty, passed down from generation to generation. Daddy had this, I'm going to have that also. Sometimes it's the marketing. Sometimes it's a SHOT Show video that sells you on the gun. Sometimes it's a little bit more. And I'll point out a comment that Calaveras 32 Special had made earlier. Maybe Calaveras, you could explain it a little bit better. I was kind of curious what you meant by it, but we'll get to that in a little bit about the DD gun being a go-to-war gun, not. So, where does a person even start? And now we're starting to get to a point, again, where AR prices are dipping down to $399. Now, granted, it might not include a mag, or it might not include sights, or, a sling, or whatever. So, does your average person, do they really need to spend? Now, let's just say, like, we're talking 16-inch carbine from one brand, 16-inch carbine from the other, carbine gas system, similar furniture, similar finish. This brand's $1,500 and this one's $500. Is there really any advantage to buying the cheaper gun? So that's I want to just run this one around the panel. So Hillbilly, I'm going to start off with you first. Do you think it really matters? Is there really a quality difference if you've got two nearly identical AR-15s? One of them's from manufacturer A and one's from B, but A wants 3 times more than B. Hillbilly, what are your thoughts on that? Is it really worth it sometimes to spend more money or not? What do you think? Either way, there is no wrong answer here, man. It's your own opinion. So, yeah.
I live in my part of the country. We got Bass Pro. We got Wilson Combat. A couple of really nice gun companies down there in Wilson Combat and doggone it, my mind's
Missouri, Arkansas, the Southeast is just like it's the gun haven. There's so many, North Carolina, there's so many factories that are in those areas, South Carolina, Palmetto State Armory, North Carolina, Georgia. So,
I've shot, like a Palomino and Daniel Defense and, from kind of a cheaper version to more expensive version. But, my buddy has one that's got the Wilson upper and lower and stuff. And it just seems so smooth, I mean, it's really hard for me to tell. Of course, I think, the more money you're going to spend, possibly, you'll might have a little better barrel and this and that. But, the difference, I think, a lot is from your stamped, upper,
maybe like
lower.
Kind of fit and finish, Yeah. I mean, they're.
it's just smoother. You know, you can just basically feel the action that's a little bit smoother. But I mean, you know, a lot of them do the job. You know, I mean, you can go out there and crank out several rounds practicing and stuff in a cheap one. And I think maybe a lot of it depends on, you know, if you're going to have one that lasts, you know, and it's like a lot of things, you know, the more money you're going to spend for better, you know, quality, you know, then it's probably going to be something you're going to be able to pass down, you know, to grandkids or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, my first AR was a DPMS Oracle for $600. It was the cheapest AR-15 I could get. And the only issue I ever had with it was one time the extractor ripped the rim off of a round of Tula. And I put basically nothing but steel case through it. And it just kept running. Now, the finish on it wasn't as good as something that was like, you know, nitride or anodized, but it was almost like a black poly coat that was on it. Like the upper receiver started to show some wear, but it ran and it was accurate. So would there really be any point to investing 3 times more in, say, you know, an FN that looks nearly identical to it, you know, physically, same gas system, same barrel length, you know, does the machine gun steel barrel really matter? And again, we're not bad mouthing at all anybody that spends that kind of money on those guns. I've done it myself, and I want to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm just kind of curious to see what people think. So you do kind of notice a little bit of a difference in maybe the fit and finish, the tolerances, the overall feel of, say, just a low, like a more entry level AR versus something that's higher, and something maybe that runs over $1,000 or $1,500.
Yeah, and yeah, you can. And like I said, I'm kind of more of a bullpup fan myself. That's what I have. So
okay, all right, I gotcha. Okay, single shot. What about you? Is there a difference? Is there really a difference in quality? You know, when it comes to brand A and brand B, and brand B is 3 times more, and it's essentially the exact same rifle.
Yeah, there is. There is a difference in them, and there's one of the lowers that I bought here a little while ago. I forget now what that name of that thing was, but it was a polymer, and I will not buy another polymer.
Yeah, no, but we're just saying, like, if you go PSA versus, you know, LMT Lewis Machine Tour, BCA, you know, not Bear Creek, but Bravo Company, you know, they're pretty good. Okay.
They're pretty good. I've had good luck with Anderson. I've had good luck with Palmetto State Armory. Bear Creek, that's another one.
Well, here's the thing. I've got my Bear Creek AR I bought like 6 or 7 years ago. I put literally that, and I mean, there's guys that will say in a video, well, I do 1,000 rounds a week through my rifle. Okay, that's good for you. I've done a couple thousand rounds through my Bear Creek rifle, at least half of them steel case, and it's still on the original carrier group, original firing pin. The bore's still nice and sharp. It's nice and clean. Like I don't, you know, it's been great, and it was a $500 AR, you know. And there's reasons why I've spent more money and bought higher end ARs, and after I've had a chance to shoot higher end ARs, there's sometimes occasionally proprietary features that are really cool that I like on a gun that you might not get on a lower end gun. But for the most part, I mean, they really do feel about the same, just gun to gun. I'm not talking about going piston versus DI. I'm saying like 2 guns, identical gas systems, same barrel material, same lower material, you know, identical anodized finish or nitride finish. You know, is there really a difference in the end? So you say yes. You do notice a bit of a difference? Okay.
Yes, I have. I've built 6 of them so far, and you know, like I said, I won't buy another polymer lower.
No, that was what was it? Plum Crazy? Was that the company that made the $99 polymer lowers? Was it Plum Crazy or something like that? I think that's what they were called. They had them for $100 at one point. So there's a couple companies that do polymer lowers, but yeah.
I bought this one complete.
Okay.
And I paid over $200 for that POS. And I won't. Oh, I'm dead serious. No,
I know. Don't they break in the back? Don't they sometimes crack where the
mine broke right by the.
I know they had
right by the magazine well.
Those Plum Crazy ones or whatever they were called, you could send them in and get a replacement Gen 2 that has like metal reinforced in the polymer. Then it's getting to the point where it's like, well, what is the point when you're not saving really anything anymore? You know, that was just the thing that drives me nuts is for $9 more, $10 more, I can go to PSA and get a basic M4 all metal lower.
Yeah.
Mil-spec, ready to go. Mil-spec buffer tube. you know, for the same price or for $10 more. What is the point, you know?
So that's why I, you know, I have the decisions made that I had made about these components. You know, polymer, as far as I'm concerned, polymer might be good for some things.
Yeah.
But there's just some things that it's not good for.
Well, polymer done right with proper reinforcements and a proprietary and a good grade of plastic can run well. I mean, I think in like H&K or other guns that are out there that have a lot of polymer and they hold up and run fine. FN, you know, I'm thinking like the P90, PS90, heavily, you know, a lot of that gun is basically plastic, but it's done the right way. And so you don't have to worry about things like gear stripping or frames cracking and stuff. Not that can't happen, but I mean, when it's done the right way, it's okay. But for a general AR-15, you're not really going to save anything, you know.
No.
Just even,
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I really don't believe so. You know, to each his own. And, you know, for what people are going to use them for, that's another consideration. You know, that's what you got to consider. If I got the money for something that's a bit more expensive, or you know, have I got to have it right now? That's another consideration. So.
All right. So Mad Sexy, we'll get to Rob. We'll get to you in just a moment. Mad Sexy says that Travis, one of my old videos, I explained how I built my AR-15 for under $300. Using Aero Precision lower PSA parts with no issues. It's been over 5 years now. Yeah, there was a time where we were talking about it, saying, guys, you can get this AR. You can make this AR for $299. Granted, you know, it might not have included a transfer fee or shipping or a mag, but it's like you can build a rifle for $300, and Mad Sexy's is running fine. You know, so I mean, if you're using quality components, I mean, that's going to be the big thing too, is the supplier for the internals, you know, stuff like that. The pins for the trigger group and the hammer, you know, are you getting from a reputable manufacturer? Or are you buying a parts kit off of wish.com? You know, because there is going to be a difference. I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Okay, Squib, let's move on to you. What are your thoughts about this? Is it really necessary, or should a person, if they're going to go out and get an AR, look into spending a certain price point or going with a particular brand? Does it really matter?
Well, most AR uppers and lowers, most of the components are American made. A lot of manufacturers use mil-spec as their base, and then they offer some higher end stuff if you want to go in a different route. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse. People don't necessarily understand what mil-spec is. That's literally a specification. It's made to a standard, a weight, a material, a finish, something like that.
You know, I'm thinking of the staking on the gas key and stuff, and on the castle nut. You know,
people mistake mil-spec for indestructible. Mil-spec does not mean indestructible. It means you're making it to a specification. If the engine has to have 100 horsepower, if the spec is 100, then mil-spec for this engine would be 100 horsepower, right? Or it's got to have 100 horsepower. It's got to be so many cubic inches. It's got to weigh a certain amount. It's got to be made out of a certain material. It has to run so many hours before an overhaul. Those would all be specifications. If it fits within that, if it exceeds it, so what? It exceeds it. But if it fits within it, that's the spec. So be mil-spec XYZ-123 for this engine, right? So it's the same thing with the military parts. That doesn't mean they're indestructible. It also doesn't mean that they're crap. You're talking about people who have never fired a gun before, qualifying and learning how to be effective with this platform. You're talking about these weapons that can be in the inventory for decades, and if they're regularly maintained, they'll work, they'll function, and you can mix and match the parts that are interchangeable for the most part. So for those people who say, I'm buying mil-spec because that's the best, it's not necessarily best. Or I don't want any of that mil-spec stuff because it's crap. It's not necessarily crap. That's where your personal opinion comes in. Some people form their opinion off of what other people say because they have no idea what they're doing. And it's kind of funny when you hear them talk. And then there's other people who've been doing this for a while, and we formed our own opinions based off of our experience using, whether it be government property or whether our own personal property. And it still comes, there's a lot of opinion out there. Brand loyalty does exist. I don't see a problem with brand loyalty as long as that brand really does well by you. But,
you know, I'm a huge fan of Ruger, and there's some people that hate Ruger because of Bill Ruger, you know, whatever, what he said back in the day. And it's like, what did he say? I wasn't, you know, I got into guns after he died. So what did he say? You know, he actually he spoke in front of Congress
And he said nobody needs more than a 10-round magazine. That's what he said back in the 90s. Yeah. He said that. Or is the 80s? Is the 80s or 90s? He said that. I think regardless, yeah. So, but there's a lot of opinion on this more so than actual evidence. And somebody can go, well, this, that, and the other, and this, you know, just like I hear people say that military triggers are crap, and it's like, no, they're fine, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they've never shot a military, or they've only shot one, or maybe
like
they got a crappy,
maybe they got two-stage guys lead that they spent $350 on,
right.
And they don't know, you know. And if you know your rifle well, and you probably know this because I'm guessing you probably carried. Did you carry the same carbine through most of your career in the Marines at all, or not? I mean,
I had a full size rifle when I didn't carry the M60. Never saw an M4 carbine the entire time I was in. I'm that old. I'm that a single shot can relate to me.
You knew that rifle, and you knew the trigger, and you knew with enough rounds through it, you were comfortable with that gun. Like, you know that trigger. So
the people who will talk about the bullet weight, the twist rate, the barrel length, whether it has a 1-stage, 2-stage trigger, whether it has mag pull furniture or not, whether it has an optic, iron sights, and all that, it's not any of that stuff. Those things might make it lighter or easier to manage the recoil, or make it faster to acquire target, or they might just have the cool factor. They might have the cool factor that you like, right? They might save on this, that, or the other. But the reality is, with a basic bare bones mil-spec AR-15A2, you can put bullets into an 8-round plate at 500 meters all day long, if you know what you're doing, without being Jerry Mikulik or some other stunt shooter. So it's just a matter of getting to know it and working with it. You can use different kinds of ammo and get better results, especially for things like competition or hunting. You can mess with barrel length. There are people who say chrome line barrel, no chrome line barrel, you know, forward assist. There are all kinds of people. Forward assist is crap. I think they just don't know how to use one. Is it necessary? Personal opinion, right? I know how to use a forward assist, so I don't think it's crap. But that's just it. A lot of people, no iron sights. They want optic right off the bat, and I don't see a problem with iron sights on them either. You know, people think the carry handle is dumb. I don't. There's just all kinds of opinion out there. So I really don't know if I can give you an answer without an opinion. I can tell you this. I've never bought an assembled AR-15 in my life, ever. Not ever. Okay. I don't understand why somebody would do that, other than they wanted a gun today, or they literally have no mechanical inclination at all. I mean, it's not that difficult to take an upper and a lower and hook them together. It's that simple. You could buy a fully assembled upper and a fully assembled lower. You can also buy them bare bones. And what I like about them is you can make it to whatever you want.
And that's pretty much me anymore. The last 2 or 3 years, the majority of the lowers that I bought have been, I've gotten the parts kits and, you know, gotten the Anderson lowers or gotten the PSA lowers or whatever, and just built my own, finished my own. I've never actually fully built my own upper, like the actual barrel mating in the receiver. I purchased, you know, complete uppers, or purchase an upper without the bolt carrier and the charge handle, and then go with whatever components I want. So, I mean, yeah, I guess, you know, it really comes down to, you know, the budget is going to be a big part of it. Do you have the money to spend on that? And a lot of people don't have $1,500 or $2,000 or $3,000 to spend on an AR-15. So they won't. And then there's people that will, because they can and they don't care. They just want it for whatever reason, you know. And again, we get sold on a lot of hype, or sometimes the advertising. For me, it was really a whole different reason. The reason why I bought my DDM 4A1. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But no, you've got a good point. I mean, you know, it's how well you know the tool, and how well the tool works for you, and how well you can make the tool work for you. I mean, you know, it's really what it comes down to.
If
so
somebody, if somebody asked me, hey, I'm thinking about buying this brand of charging handle, or this brand of bolt, or this brand of stock, or this brand of barrel, or whatever the heck it is, and they want to know if I had any experience with it, positive or negative, I could tell them that, right? I could tell them what I think of it from my experience, or I could say I've never used it before. Well, why not? It's probably just because I've never used it, not necessarily because it's crap. I also look at my experience not just as how hard it was to get this thing, how, you know, did the company stay in business, all this other stuff, but also how well it worked, or how long it lasted, or what my customer service experience was dealing with the company. When I try to give my opinion on that, when it's something I've never messed with, I'll say I've never messed with it. But I can tell you this, short of your transfer fee, short of shipping costs, short of sales tax, and short of an optic, you can make an AR-15 in 5.56 NATO for about 400 to 450 bucks. And you go, well, you're leaving out a lot of stuff: shipping, transfer fee, sales tax, and optic. It really varies where you live, or if you can find all this stuff at your local store. If you go online, you'll find a better price, but you're going to pay shipping, right? So that's why I kind of leave those things out. But for about 450 bucks, minus those things, which vary from state to state, right? Or your particular
like I can buy strip blowers locally and not have to pay a transfer fee and not pay shipping because they're hanging on a peg in the gun store. I can go buy strip blowers anywhere.
So you look at it, let's say you buy a strip blower for 50 bucks, you pay 20 bucks to ship it and a $25 transfer fee. So now you're at 95 bucks. Or you can go buy it at your local FFL for, well, 95 bucks or maybe less, 75 or something. It just depends on what it's,
That's what I paid for my Anderson.
Right. So I can say that minus those things, for about 400 to 450 bucks, you can get something that's going to work. And you go, but it doesn't have a 2-stage trigger, but it doesn't have Magpul furniture, but it doesn't have a red dot, but it doesn't. You don't need all that stuff. The rest of it comes down to you. Now, if you want that stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I would rather just assemble one. I don't call it build unless I actually take every single last piece and put it together. I buy my uppers fully assembled, right? I would rather put the optic on it I want. I'd rather put the bolt carrier group, the stock, the grip, the spring kit, whatever the heck it is, pick out the upper I like, and maybe I change out the muzzle device or something like that. But for the most part, just buy all the stuff and put it together. And if you order it off the internet, although you might have to get it from multiple sources and you're going to eat it in shipping costs, if you're familiar with certain parts, or you particularly like this or particularly like that, then I think you can get it to what you want. And if you look at that versus a fully assembled, say like an $800,000-$900,000 one at the store, you might come in at that price or less, and you've got better stuff on there, or stuff that you like better, or stuff that works for you, instead of buying it and then having to change out the bolt later, or put a lighter this on there, or change the sights, or change the furniture, or change it. You just buy it and put what you want on it from day one. But I have a lot of people out there that say, I don't know what I want on day one because I've never shot one of these things. All right, go out and shoot some that your friends own. I don't have any friends. Get some friends.
Get some friends.
First step, get some friends. Okay, quit being such a dweeb and get some friends. And second, get some gun friends. Another thing is, go down to the range, your local range. I mean, literally, if you walk up to somebody and say, "Could I shoot that?" Or you might have to bring your own ammo or something, but you would be surprised how many people are willing to let you shoot their gun, or they might even let you put a couple rounds with their own ammo.
How does it run for you?
Yeah, what do you think?
Because usually at the range, you're going to get an honest opinion from people like, "Oh, this thing's a piece of crap," or "I'm trying to work out some bugs," or "This thing's freaking awesome, try it." You'd be surprised. So
so there are some ways to get a clue. I don't necessarily want to say the YouTube review is the best way, or something in Guns and Ammo or something like that, because you're going to get more opinion once again. So if you get some hands-on or something like that, and there's going to be some trial and error. This is how we all end up with that box of extra parts, right? You might have a newbie who doesn't have any extra parts, so they don't know. But the rest of us have got this box of leftovers. These are either original parts we stripped off that we replaced with something we liked or we thought we were going to like, or these are things that we bought that we thought we were going to like that we end up not liking. And you can almost make a whole gun out of there, minus the receiver or maybe a barrel or something. Or if somebody needs parts and they ain't got any money and you're like, you want some of these? They'll take them. You never know. You might be able to swap and trade for something, or somewhere down the road, you may have a need for these. So everybody who's been doing ARs for a while ends up with that box of parts. If you don't have it, one day you will. So don't be afraid to get something. And if you don't like it, trade it out for something else. Try something else. It's the sky's the limit.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, for 400 to 450 minus those things, you can get something that will shoot reliably all day long, whether you want to plink with it, whether you want to hunt with it, if you can, and where you live, whether you want to use it for home defense, whether you want to use it for competition. It'll do all of that if you know what you're doing.
Jason Seward says there's true mil-spec and better. Then there's just made to fit a price point. In a fight, it's just you and your rifle. Customer service emails aren't there to fight with you. And I've had, mixed experiences with different brands. And I will say this, the more I've spent on uppers or complete guns, the less problems I've had in general. And I'm not trying to rip on any lower brands, but like just picking one, I had a Radical Firearms 10.5-inch pistol upper that I just did not get to run, no matter how hard I tried. I tried different lowers with it, and I tried different types of ammo, and it just wouldn't cycle. So I ended up having to send it back to get it fixed. Now with, Bear Creek Arsenal, they do send me uppers and I do test them. I've had great luck with them. And then I've had some of them fail and I've showed that on camera. So, I mean, they're machines. They're again, some people say built to a price point, And sometimes things break, parts fail and so on. So, I mean, it really, sometimes it doesn't always necessarily matter on the brand. Things can just happen or go wrong.
Well, let me give you an example of the brand when it comes down to the government issue guns, the M16s and the M4s. All right, there was Colt, then there was FN, then there was Bushmaster, and then I don't know who was making them after that, but you've got a mishmash of uppers, lowers, and parts, and they're all mil-spec, so they'll all go together.
Sure.
So, like, I always carried a Colt M16A2, right? As long as I didn't put that thing on burst, it did fine. As soon as you put it on burst, it jams. I don't know why anybody would want one of these things with full auto or select fire. I don't get it. I mean, I understand up close in certain circumstances, you want to keep their heads down, but that's what the squad automatic weapon or the machine gun is for. This gun was never meant to shoot full auto. It's just junk, in my opinion, and a lot of other veterans'
that
opinion.
Particular one, because the FNs, my M4s may not have that problem.
No, they're the same gun. They are the same exact effing gun. That's just it. Okay. Somebody's going to go, no, my Colt's better. No, my FN's better. No, my Bushman. They're all identical. They're all made to mil-spec. It's just a different brand stamped on there and a different serial number. That's it. They all have to be interchangeable parts. They've all got to be, they're not made better, one better than the other. Who had the lowest bid? That's seriously, who gets it? Who had the lowest, or who greased palms and got the kickbacks, right? That's literally who is the guy building the gun. Our machine guns, our 50 cals were made by General Motors. Okay. So the thing is, it's who gets the contract. That's all it comes down to. It's not because they go, man, we switched from Colt to FN because FN's better. No, FN underbid Colt, or Colt stepped in it, right? And then Bushmaster underbid FN, and then whoever underbid them afterward, whether maybe it went back to Colt or whatever it is, right? And they have to honor these contracts. They're supposed to make so many guns, so many spares. So somebody's going to go, I've got a Colt AR-15. That's what the military uses. That's because Colt bought the rights to it, and they greased some palms to get the contract, and eventually somebody undercut them. They are not, that one is not better than the other. I can tell you that for an absolute freaking fact. And that's where the brand loyalty comes in. You have a Colt because you're loyal to Colt, not because Colt makes a better AR-15 than fill in the blank. Seriously. If they're all mil-spec, now once you go above mil-spec, then you could argue quality for, durability or weight or something like that, right? But or what it comes with outside, from straight out of the box for the same price. There's two $800 AR-15s. What's the difference? This one has sights and this one doesn't. Okay, that sort of thing. But no, when it comes down to those government contracts, it's whoever it has the lowest bid or whoever does the most kickbacks gets the business. That's seriously how it works. No BS.
Yep. Couple comments I want to get through real quick. Defense Dad says, just be sure that this guy doesn't make ARs. And then what Scott79 says, and I know people that were in the military that were small arms repair people. Let me tell you, they don't do the maintenance. So, hey, Rob, we'll get to you in just a moment. Calaveras 32 Special is joining us. Calaveras, you wanna join in on this little chat? What would you have to say about the whole price point issue? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, that's for, I was dropping in and out. I was trying, I'm on my way home. I was trying to get my damn phone to connect to the car.
No, don't worry about it, dude. It's all good. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sitting here. I'll give you a quick answer. I'm going to have to drop out because I can't hold the phone while we do this.
Don't worry about it, dude. Yeah.
For the most part, that's for, a PSA, mil-spec or any of the other brand mil-specs. I don't necessarily think, the $600 AR versus the $3,000 AR, I don't think you're necessarily getting what you're not getting a whole lot extra besides the name. If you're getting a DI or versus a piston,
yeah,
then you got some of those other features. But that's for I don't know. I missed part of the show, but I don't know if you look back at the comment I made about the. I was trying to explain more about the quote unquote go to war stuff.
Yeah, you were saying that tolerances could be one of the differences between the different companies, and
Well, that's right. I use Daniel Defense as an example. That's for example, because that's true. In my original one, I made a comment that's like I wouldn't take my home assembled firearm, which has a lot of non-mil-spec parts and a lot of materials that are. This company is trying to experiment with this and trying to make that better, whatever. And they have no history as to how well it actually works under hard use. And then you have your like 3-gun race guns. Everything is designed to cycle, 10 times at the rate, and weigh half as much, and this kind of thing. What I was trying to say, that's true. I wouldn't want, if I was in I need this for defense of my life, I wouldn't necessarily want the bargain bin, but I also necessarily wouldn't want the uber crazy high end either. That's right.
The Gucci ARs, that's what somebody made a comment on earlier.
Yes.
If you've got one, good for you. That's fine. But
the mil-spec is not top quality, but it is at least a standard on which you should be able to reasonably rely in a like a better way of putting it, shit hit the fan, zombie apocalypse, whatever. There's at least a history and a standard on which you can reasonably rely, and it's not, like I said, it's not the $1.99 99-cent store special, and it's not Gucci. That's all I was trying to say about it.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, and I was just going to one thing I was going to mention is that Daniel Defense is a supplier for the military. That was just one thing I was going to say. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's superior in its build quality to FN or Colt or anything. It's if it's built to mil-spec. But I'll tell my own little Daniel Defense story here in a little bit. No, it's no big deal. I was just curious to see what your thoughts were on something like that. So no, I got you, bud.
Right, and that's where I figured that's all you were asking. That's why I was just trying to give you.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
Explanation.
Sure. No, it's cool. No, and you've got a very good point too, and I think you just need to find something that is going to be reliable, that's going to run the way you want it to, that you can trust your life to. Because again, we have a lot of people that watch our videos that might only have one AR, or they're building or buying their first AR and they want some advice. Obviously, we want to steer them in the right direction and get something that's not going to fall apart on them. But we also want to, if somebody says I've only got $500, what should I do? What are the options?
Well, okay, and that's for someone like an example like that, and something like, well, I've only got $500. What do I do? That's for, okay, I would probably say a PSA mil-spec fully assembled lower and a PSA fully assembled, 16-inch mid-length gas system upper.
That's what I have. Those are absolutely fantastic. I've got 2 of them, and they're great. Yeah.
No frills, but they will work for you until you either figure out tweaks that you want to make to it to make it yours, or will continue to function for years to come if that's how you decide to leave it. And it is still relatively budget friendly, but while still being reliable.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not going to lie, when I bought my DDM 4A1, I was basically sold on the the allure of the fact that this exact upper, basically this rifle, is used by SOCOM. It's like, okay, that's what I want. Well, you got to pay to play. Unfortunately, that's what it really comes down to, is if you want that rifle, well, it's going to cost you $1,500. It may not be technically superior to your PSA, but if you want that. But anyway, I want to get to Rob here real quick. But no, Calverus, you got valid points all across the board, man. I agree with you on that. Outcast. So when you bought your AR-15, you had several brands you could choose from, right? Even though you're in New York, you had several options. Was it the price point that sold you on yours? Did you watch some reviews on it? Was it the trusted brand? What was it that sold you on your AR-15 or AR-15s?
All right. Honestly, warranty was one of the big things I look at. So I want a decent warranty. I prefer American made, and obviously something with a fairly decent reputation, which honestly I didn't have too much information on the reputation of the brand at that point, but I did make a phone call and ask around pretty much, and matter of fact got some advice from Squid, or at least some information. So
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I bought this one was purchased at a time where prices were up more, so I guess you can say I went with Stag Arms. You can typically get them starting around $750 or whatever from what I've seen, but I paid a bit more than that, so at the time. But it, I like like I said, American made, warranty. If the barrel's ever shot out, they'll replace it. You can pass it on without paperwork. You can buy it used, secondhand, whatever, pass it along. So basically my kids can, get parts for it if need be, or anything replaced. So I like that idea. But as to kind of your initial question, I think, it kind of depends what your intentions are. I mean, if you were going to actually go to competition or something a little better, then you might want to upgrade a little bit, but if, just a basic rifle, A or company B, and they both have the same materials, this or that, honestly, I don't see a whole lot of difference, as long as, the affordable company or whatever didn't have a bad day. I would obviously look at warranties, because I'm a big one for warranties, but
not everybody's got a lifetime on it either. A lot of people think that, well, my gun's got a lifetime. Are you sure about that? Because many times it's just 1 year, or sometimes it's only to the original purchaser. And if you buy something secondhand, or you don't buy it direct from the supplier, then you may not have that warranty. And then I don't blame you. I mean, that's important to have in case something would break, or something would crack, or something would fail on it, like case in point with the Bear Creek ones, I've got a couple uppers I had to send back because they had some issues, stuff I probably could have fixed in the end if I had the time to deal with it, but I didn't. So I had a couple that have been sent back in. Out of like 12, I think I've had 2 for me personally that have had issues out of all the different uppers I've tested and bought from them. Now granted, those are not high mileage guns. I haven't put thousands and thousands of rounds through them to speak to their overall reliability. I have with one, my Bear Creek Brown Bear I've had for years, but the warranty's been nice to know that if I want to send it in, then that's, and a good manufacturer, reputable manufacturer will give you a lifetime warranty on the gun. That's obviously your, I don't know about do you have an M&P 15 also or not?
I have the 22 version.
22 version. Okay. Yeah. And I think Smith & Wesson's got a lifetime guarantee on their firearms, at least their pistols. Ruger has a lifetime guarantee. They don't advertise it, but they say if the gun ever fails, send it to us and we'll fix it, or we'll make an assessment if we're going to charge you for it or not. They don't specifically say you've got 12 months warranty. They just say that they guarantee the firearm will function for the lifetime of the owner. So yeah.
Hey, Travis.
Yo, go ahead, buddy.
I like that comment that Defense Dad put on there. Wyndham Weaponry is in southern Maine.
Okay.
And they make a real good piece of equipment. They are a very good piece of equipment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the thing is, and I will say this, like there's companies that have been controversial, and a lot of us personally won't buy certain brands because of decisions those companies have made. But in the end, it really comes down to you, your preference, what you want. Like I've got a Daniel Defense, and they're being criticized in the news right now because of advertising and being accused of marketing aggressively to teenagers, or for the symbolism that shows up on some of the people operating their firearms and stuff. And I mean, I guess I bought mine for a particular reason, but sometimes you got to decide what you want to do, So Scott 79 says Wyndham Weaponry is the original Bushmaster. I didn't realize that. Okay.
So that makes me think of something else. Some of these companies buy their parts from other companies. Some people will be like, Anderson is crap, right? Because they don't cost a lot, even though they actually do make good stuff. A lot of other companies buy their stuff from Anderson and rebrand it. And you just bought Anderson, dude. You were there saying Anderson is crap, and you're talking about this fire control group you got, and guess what, dude? It's Anderson. Or the fact that there's only so many companies making the forgings, and then these companies will mill out the forgings. So it's something they don't all make their stuff in-house, and sometimes they'll buy stuff from another reputable manufacturer. Like if it comes with Magpul furniture, obviously they're buying it from Magpul and putting it on their lower, their upper, or whatever it is. But some other stuff where you don't know where it's coming from, you'd be surprised how many of these companies share components, especially when they're all
there's only so
mil-spec.
many forgers and casters in this country. I mean, and somebody had made a comment earlier, you can see the forge marks on the uppers and the lowers. And you could have 5 different brands, and they all buy their receivers and their lowers from different companies. Where the difference comes in might be like the grade of handguard they put on the gun. Are they going monolithic? Are they going Knight's Armament? Are they going Magpul? You know, that's where a lot of the differences start to show up. Or are they maybe skimping a little bit on the components like the pins? You know, is there lower quality pins that they're using when they assemble the gun? Or do they test the gun when it's assembled or not? You know, what kind of rigor do they put the firearm through when it's finished? I think that's kind of where a lot of, you know, the fit and finish and the success of a certain, or reliability of a certain brand maybe comes from. But no, yeah, I hear you. Is that you're going to get, you know, there's only so many companies that actually, how many actual companies, not talking about like custom companies that mill their own. Oh, maybe school will be back. There's only so many like forgers that we have in this country that do the aluminum lowers and the aluminum uppers and the receivers. And, you know, they send them off to the companies who then finish them or build them. So there's only so many companies actually out there that do that. So you might be getting, you know, you and I might have a $1,500 rifle and you've got an $800 rifle, and they've got the upper receiver and the lower from the exact same company. Now there's going to be differences, you know, the chrome line barrel, or getting a rifle that's got the FN proprietary machine gun steel, you know, barrel in it. You'll pay a premium for things like that. A lot of the extra features you'll pay a premium for. Scott 79 said that Toolcraft is usually the OEM bolt carrier group. Yeah, unless the company makes their own bolt carrier group, you know, in-house. Now, they might have certain quality standards that they hold each rifle to before it leaves the line. You know, that could be one difference from one company to the next. One company could get a whole pallet full of bolt carrier groups. They just sling them in the rifle, put one round through it, or just assemble it, check the tolerances, and they sell it. And then another company might fit those components together, shoot so many rounds, clean the bolt carrier group, inspect it for unusual wear, put it back together, shoot a few more rounds through it. Like you sometimes hear about that from, you know, highly cut, you know, from firearms that tend to come from smaller shops or firearm companies that charge, you know, more money for the gun. Now, does that mean that gun's going to be more reliable than the $400 AR that you bought? Not necessarily. I mean, it really does kind of just, it really comes down to your own personal experience and your own preferences, like you said before. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a few car companies, just whatever's on the shelf, that's what you get, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, okay, so Watt75 says, I put together a mostly Anderson AR pistol with leftover parts, and the upper and lower fit together perfect with 0-player rattle. Yeah, I mean, and again, those components that go into that trigger group could come from, you know, like one company could buy them all from CMMG, or maybe another company assembles them from PSA, or maybe a company outsources them from China. Like, you don't know exactly, right?
CMMG buys their parts from somebody else.
What's that?
CMMG buys their parts from somebody else.
See, where do these all come from? Just a few suppliers. So in the end, does it really matter? And to me, I would say no, as long as your gun is reliable and you don't notice any weird. If you put hundreds of rounds through your rifle and it's running well for you, you clean it every time you take it out, it groups well and it functions and it's spitting them out properly and everything's tight and good, you should be fine. I mean, that's the thing, is don't feel obligated to spend, you know, $1,500 or $2,000 on a rifle. I didn't spend $1,500 on my rifle until years and years after I'd been shooting, and I finally decided I wanted to get a bucket list gun, you know. So, I mean, for me, it was kind of one of those things where I thought, you know, I want to get this now. The price is as low as it's ever been. I've got an opportunity to pick one up, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. So it's like case in point, like I'm trying to say is, okay, we've got the FN. They make the M4 Collector's Edition, which looks very similar to what's issued in the U.S. Army. You know, 16-inch, or no, there's the 14.5-inch barrel that the U.S. military uses. I think the civilian version is the 16-inch barrel, but you get the same handguard. It's manufactured on the same line. You've got the same barcode stamping on it. You get the same vertical foregrip, the same furniture, the same, what is it, Mautek or Maytech flip-up iron sight on the rear. So you get that, and that's $1,500. Well, you could go over to PSA and buy a $700 cold hammer forged 16-inch carbine, drop maybe, you know, $400 or $500 worth of parts on it, $600 worth of parts, and get a gun that's going to be comparable to the FN for maybe $200 to $300 less. Now, in the end, it's not off the FN assembly line. You can't say, it's almost like taking parts on your car and like taking your 4-cylinder Mustang and putting all these parts on it, or doing an engine swap and saying it's a 5.0. Well, it never rolled off the assembly line as a 5.0, right? It didn't roll off the assembly line as a race car. You wanted to make it into one. So, you know, is there really any difference? I think it really comes down to what you want. So when I bought my Daniel Defense M4A1, the reason why I bought it was because I was at a point where I was ready to buy a bucket list gun. And I knew that this wasn't going to offer any real advantage just with the type of shooting that I do versus any of the other ARs that I have in my gun safe. But I wanted something that had a lineage and a pedigree that came from actual combat use or military use. I wanted one go-to-war rifle that's going to be that one that I would have, and maybe it's going to be the last AR that I ever have to buy, okay? So that's why I decided to go with the M4A1. And again, I'm not advertising for Daniel Defense, but that exact upper is carried by men and women. It is actually used in combat, and it's used as part of the SOP mod program. And now, granted, mine's got the 14.5-inch barrel that's got a pinned and welded flash hider on it, where you don't get that, you know, in the military. And obviously there's this full auto and mine's semi-auto. But I wanted something that had that pedigree. And unfortunately, I had to pay to play. You know, it was $1,600. Now that gun goes for $2,100. It's kind of like that FNM4. You know, I watched a lot of reviews on it. Does it function any different or maybe any better than, say, an off-the-rack $700 PSA AR? Well, you could argue the barrel. Maybe the barrel is going to have a better life because it's chrome lined and it's their machine gun steel, and that might justify the premium. The barrels alone sell for $400, you know, so, or $300. So it really comes down to what you want. And I wanted something that was as close to military issue as possible. Now, granted, I took that rifle and made a movie gun build out of it by putting parts on it to make it look like one of the rifles from Sicario 2. But the reason why I bought it was because I thought, you know what, I want to get one good AR. You know, price did matter because I was looking at Bravo Company, I was looking at Knights Armament, I was looking at LMT, and I didn't want to spend $2,500. And $1,500 was pretty much, $1,600 was my cap. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and get it. Now, does it feel any different on the firing line than my $600 or $700 PSA ARs? I mean, I'll admit maybe there's a little bit less receiver wobble or wiggle, or it feels, it could just be mind over matter. It feels maybe like it's built a little bit better. It groups really well. It shoots really well, but it could be me. It could just be mind over matter. Is it really any different than a 14.5-inch AR from PSA? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I like the buffer system they use in it. I like the springs. I think it's a very smooth shooting AR. It has a very heavy trigger. I will say that, and it's supposedly mil-spec. Maybe it's just not broken in yet. So, I mean, I made that decision because I wanted that particular upper. I thought it looked really cool. I like the colors that it came in. You know, it kind of comes in like this FDE and black finish. I wanted to do a, you know, like a SOCOM SOP mod build. So that's why I bought that. And, it was pricey in the end. Was it worth it? I think so. But then again, I still have my $400 Bear Creek AR that just runs like a champ every time I take it to the range, whether I feed it steel or I feed it brass, it doesn't really seem to matter. So that's kind of the whole point here in the end. So I'm not sure. What do we have here? Okay, so G23's out there saying some companies say they have a lifetime warranty. Unfortunately, they don't stand behind their products. And G23, you had a negative experience with PSA, and I think you might have made a video on that at some point, or you've talked about what happened. When I was watching the interview with PSA's, I don't know if it was their CEO or a couple guys that were in charge, there was an interview that, was it Clover? Maybe interview PSA. PSA said if their products ever fail by anybody, you can contact them and you can get the product repaired. And maybe, G, wasn't it because when you bought it, it was not from PSA direct, it was from another retailer. Maybe that's what it came down to. But they claim that they stand behind it regardless. So, and me with PSA, I've used PSA's customer service before. They've screwed up on orders. I've never had issues with guns, but they've messed up on my orders before. And it took weeks during the pandemic to get my situation straightened out. But they did mention that return phone calls and emails could have a delay. And they did in my situation, but they still took care of me. And I mean, I was still able to make phone calls and get through to people. So, but if a lot of people say that, no, PSA doesn't stand behind their products, I would like to hear their stories and find out what it was that happened. Was it because of modifications they made to the gun? Was it because of a product failure? I'm just kind of curious what it was. And again, I could care less either way. I'm just kind of curious what it was, because that's one of PSA's big things is they do boast the lifetime warranty right there on the main page when you look at their ARs. So that's why I was just kind of curious. So let's see here. Go ahead.
Related to a sealed box, something you purchased that was sealed in the box from a gun store, which they referred to as a third party. So because it wasn't a PSA store. So
did that end up getting changed or not? Do you know?
I honestly, I don't know. I just kind of recall this, conversation in the past. So So it, to my knowledge, it wasn't anything where you could have lost a part out of or whatever. It was in a sealed package.
Yeah.
Gun shop. So but the part that struck me is be considered a gun shop a third party. So you figure if they're
PSAs, I think their stuff's a little bit different. I think that's why they're doing the DPMS line, why they bought that and put that back into production, even though it's just a PSA gun. I think it's their AK line that they sell. It's DPMS is their commercial line that you're going to find in Bass Pro and Cabela's. Whereas I don't hardly ever see, like, smaller independent gun stores. I'll see PSA stuff showing up on the racks, but big box gun stores, I never see anything Palmetto State for sale. I never see complete ARs from them, or AKVs, or daggers in the pistol cases. In fact, I talked to a person at a gun store today, and I said, do you guys ever get any PSA daggers in stock or ever get any PSA builds? And he goes, no, we don't, because we only buy guns that came manufactured as complete guns. When we buy them off other people, we won't buy kit guns from people or something that somebody put together. I'm like, well, how would you really know? If you got Anderson upper and lower, how do you know I didn't build it, initially myself? So anyway, I just thought it was kind of odd. So maybe PSA is a little more difficult for gun dealers to deal with and carry their stuff, because I was thinking maybe they didn't offer any kind of discount to the dealers, which is why dealers just don't carry their stuff. Because if dealers carried it, they'd have to buy it at PSA's prices and sell it at a higher price, which a person's going to go online and buy it anyway, so it wouldn't do them any good. Anyway, G23 says, watch Guns and Barbecue. He has 3 videos on it. I couldn't remember, if that was G23, if that was you or Guns and Barbecue. I remember watching videos on it, and it wasn't a very good situation. I don't know if you just had a bad customer service experience or if their third-party rules even in effect anymore, but that didn't sound like it was a good deal. And again, I'm not standing up for PSA at all, because they've messed up my orders before, and it took time to get things definitely cleared up. So Defense Dad's joining us. Defense Dad, you want to chime in on the conversation, man? Anything you want to say?
Sure. I mean, just got off work as usual.
And you've got a Wyndham weaponry AR. I think I've shot it before, right?
No, I don't have it. My stepdad does. However,
okay.
And it's he bought it right after the ban came off. So it's, I don't know, at least 15 years old. But even though it's one of their more basic ones, but it's nice. I mean, literally, I like my inexpensive builds, but you hold them in your hand, there's a difference. The finish is nicer. It's a little bit tighter tolerances. In the end, they both shoot about the same. But there is something a little bit nicer if you spend a little bit of money sometimes.
Okay. And that was one thing on the Daniel Defense gun that kind of impressed me, is I opened there's a tag on there, and it's got the initials of the 4 people that built my gun. I just thought that was kind of cool, Yeah. Not that I feel like I'm getting any kind of like uber experience out of it, but I'm thinking about, let's just switch it for a moment. Let's talk 1911s. I was watching the Les Baer factory tour, and it is unreal the amount of QC that goes into that 1911 when you buy it. And granted, they start at like $2,100 and they go up from there. But what they do on that gun, there's one gunsmith that manufactures every part, and they hand fit everything all the way through. And then they shoot it so many rounds through it. If it doesn't group the way it's supposed to, they take it back, disassemble it, clean it, go over it again, and reassemble it again and shoot it again. On some of these pistols, they put up to 75 rounds through to ensure it's going to run and ensure that it's accurate. So there sometimes are some perks you get from spending more. Does your average person need that? Not necessarily. But if there's something you really want, go ahead and get it. So.
Well, and I'll put this example, like the difference between something with nicer finish, like let's say handguns, for example. Like everybody knows I'm a big fan of my HKs, but I also have that SAR 9 that I paid $220 for after rebate, right? Mm-hmm. One of the most highly tested handguns in history, well, in recent history. And it's reliable, it shoots great, an HK does. But be honest, you hold it in your hands, it doesn't feel as nice. And this is coming for someone who's a big proponent on cheap guns. I don't like spending a lot of money on it, but I do notice the difference sometimes.
Is it maybe a little bit of the flimsiness on the polymer, or what is it exactly? Like a little gritty, like little just grittiness in the trigger, or what?
No, the metal finishes, the exterior finish on the slide, and it's just, you spend a little more money, they have a more friction finish, they're going to be easier to clean, they don't gunk up as easily. I mean, it's little things like that do sometimes make the extra money worth it. I mean, Is it worth paying double the price? I mean, that's up to you and your budget, but if someone's being real honest and you hold a PSA and you hold say like your Daniel Defense, there's a difference, even though they're both going to shoot.
Yeah, I mean, like my PSA builds are fine, but they just seem to be a little more. I don't know. It doesn't really, like you said, the tolerances might feel just a little bit different on the firing line. But again, it really comes down to, what you can do. And I mean, you've got quite a few, Bear Creek uppers that you run, and they seem to do well for you. And those were $240 uppers. I've gone through plenty of Bear Creek uppers in my time, owned them and so on. So yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So, and again, what it really comes down to is what you want. I wanted something that had, that military pedigree and lineage that represent, that was identical to what somebody was carrying, because, well, if it works for them, it's going to work for me, was kind of my mentality. But then again, I also paid, a lot of money for it. So that makes a difference. But I've also been completely happy with my Bear Creek builds and my Anderson lowers and my PSA. So, what it really comes down to is just again, buy from a reputable manufacturer and take it out and shoot it. And if there's any problems with it, make sure you get it taken care of. The main thing is to get it out and shoot it so that it's going to run. So, Hillbilly Up, anything you want to say at all? Any comments on the whole idea here? Yeah. Oh, I think you got your mute on, buddy.
Okay, hopefully that's better.
There you go. No, it's all good. That. Yeah.
Anyway, I was just thinking about, if you was going to kind of build your own, I thought maybe, people out there might have some questions about that. And so, a lot of people know the difference probably between a stamped, receiver and stuff, and then a milled one. And I was kind of wondering, kind of what your guys' opinions were. You can go places like actually the one I'm looking at or wanting to buy is like from Wilson Combat, where it's forged upper and lower match set. Is that really worth the money, the $400 for something like that to have a good solid start on your build? Or is it just good enough to go with a stamped, upper or lower of something else?
Well, for the ARs, I think all the uppers and lowers are forged, aren't they?
They're all forged. There is no such thing as a stamped AR. The only difference would be whether or not it's made out of plastic, a combination of plastic, and it could be plastic mixed with other stuff. It could be plastic and metal, plastic and other non-metal materials, or it's aluminum. There might be some steel stuff out there, maybe. But that's it. There are no.
Is it milled versus forged? You can get milled uppers. No. I know Bear Creek carries them.
Yeah, these are made out of one piece of metal.
Yeah.
They all mill. No, they're all milled out. You stick it in a CNC, push a button, and walk away.
Yep.
That's why they can make these things for $40 each, because there's nothing to making these. When you mass produce them, there's nothing to it. To go away from the mil-spec to make an AR-15 would be throwing money in the fireplace. Now, I'm not saying you're not making it out of better material, but I'm just saying the standard of literally taking an aluminum block, sticking it in the machine, pushing a button, walking away, and out comes and then you send it out and you have it finished. There's nothing to it, nothing at all.
Travis T said billet versus forged, billet aluminum versus forged. That's
okay. That I could see, but they all get milled.
You got to make sure that it's done the right way. Yeah, the billet versus forged. So that's. So American Hillbilly, they might just be using that terminology and like the marketing and the description, where if you actually read the descriptions of any upper or lower, they're all going to be forged when they were created out of a certain grade of aircraft grade aluminum is usually what they say, like 4075 or whatever they market it as. So sometimes they'll describe these things, and if you're in the know about ARs, like you really know the weapon systems and what they're made from, like they're sitting there hyping up all these features. It's like, well, yeah, but every AR should have a staked gas key. Every AR should have a staked castle nut. Every AR should have a forged lower and upper. That's just how some companies put it in the description. But then other companies make sure they put that in the paragraphs when you're reading it. So now the only main difference I could think of, Squib, would be like a monolithic upper, which is where the rail and the upper receiver is machined from a solid piece of aluminum, one piece of aluminum. That's something that could be considered maybe a premium feature for some people. Not having the handguard that's screwed on or attached to the receiver where it's milled, which those are very expensive, but they're
I think that comes down to personal preference too. Like, the only reason I'm going to get one of those is because that's the only way I can buy it. Otherwise, I'd never buy one of those. So if that's the only way they offer it, that's the way I'm going to get it. But it serves no purpose to me. For somebody else who's watched enough movies or you know, whatever it was, and they want to do certain things with it, they've got to have that feature, or they should all have this. Why should they? I get so much flack over the military handguards. They're like, they're crap and everything. It's like, no, they do just fine. But you can't hang anything off of it. Don't need to hang anything. It goes back to opinion. There's a lot of opinion when it comes to this stuff.
That's why you go with the quad rail, baby. That's why you go quad rail. You can hang anything you want off those.
Well, and let's face it, when it comes down to it, a lot of what you're going to build is personal preference. Are you going for a lighter build? Are you going to look for something to spend more money that's got maybe a skeletonized magwell if you're trying to build a lighter rifle? If you want to get fancy and get the ones that have the skulls milled into the, I mean, it's kind of a, you can get Gucci with them. It really kind of depends on the purpose you want to build it for and what you want to do with it and how much you're willing to spend.
Yeah. Jason Stewart's got kind of a fun question for us. He says, if it's time to get dirty and there's two rifles nearby, do you grab the PSA with a Vortex or a Colt and an aim point? Be honest, there is a difference. I'm going to grab whatever's closer, Jason.
That's right.
I have no experience with the new Colts that are being made. I know there was some issues for a while where they were kind of back in production and it wasn't the same Colt LE that was sold 5 years ago or 8 years ago. Man, that's a tough one. I mean, God, Jason, I cannot decide on that. I guess I would probably go the PSA because I have experience with the PSA and I have experience with Vortex optics. I'm still running the same Strike-Fire 2 on my Bear Creek rifle I put on it like 6 years ago. I think I'm only on my second battery too, by the way. So I really can't, but I love aim point, but I don't know much about Colt's current, lineup if they're built to the previous spec that they were 5 or 10 years ago. So I
think if you're looking for an inexpensive, complete AR-15, that is probably going to be your first AR-15. Your entry level, I don't know crap, and apparently I don't have any friends rifle. And then from there, you can change anything that you want on it that will bolt onto it, right? Or try out things that you've seen and go, oh, I want to try that, and you may like it, you may not. But for your first one, I could see it being this. After that, you start to form your own opinion. And next time around, you're there going, hey, man, I want to try it in 300 blackout. Or, hey, man, I want to try a longer barrel or shorter barrel. Or, hey, I want to try something that doesn't come with iron sights and just put an optic on it to begin with. Or whatever the heck it is. Or I want the front of the magwell to have a skull in it or some other thing.
Yeah.
So in the same sense, you can customize something that you already have and change out different things for your purposes. You're also learning as you're going along and you're finding out these things. And then before you know it, people are asking you your opinion. Hey, you've got one of these with this, charging handle. What do you think of it? Or, hey, why did you get that barrel length? Or why did you get that handguard? So for the price point that you're kind of talking about with some of these, I think that's a good entry level for the guy or gal out there who's getting their first AR and they're clueless, more or less.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm in a situation like a lot of it, who's going to be shooting it? So, for example, I've got a friend of mine she's got her lower. She wants her first AR. She is 5'3", weighs about 120 pounds. I've had her shoot and hold a couple of my ARs, and between like my Bear Creek 16-inch with the free floating handguard, or my PSA with the Magpul, more the M4 style, there's over a pound or it's close to a pound and a half difference in the weight of those two. And she's more comfortable shooting in the lighter one. So if it's for a kid or for a smaller gal, I mean, there's so many different handguards, you build it. If you're going to build it to the person who's going to be shooting it.
I say yes and no to that. I say that if you want to customize it to that, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good idea. I've done it, right? I've made them purposely this way for my wife or one of my kids or something because they wanted this feature, that feature. But your standard AR or M16A1, M16A2, M4 service rifle is designed to fit a 5'1", 100-pound woman or a 6'6", 300-pound man. No BS. These things are designed to, and they're designed for somebody with no experience with firearms and that sort of thing. So sometimes if you have certain preferences, or maybe you get older and you get a little bit, your strength isn't the same, or you need something that's smaller for this reason or that reason, or you need something that shoots longer distance for this reason or that, you can customize it. But as far as your stock, out of the box, as close to military issue as possible, semi-automatic rifle, you can make the rifle fit you. That's the way they were built. They were built lightweight for a reason. They were built a lot of things for a reason. And I think for somebody, they might be a little bit, they look at it and they say, oh, it's big and heavy, and it's not really heavy. Oh, it's big and scary. It's not really big and scary. But if they have no experience with anything else, they're going to look at it and go, this thing is heavy. All right, well, here, take my M1 Garand. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. All right, now what do you think of it? You see what I mean? So it comes down to perspective. Hand them something big and heavy that's got some recoil and some blast, and suddenly they're going, yeah, I think that 16-inch barrel is great.
Well, what I had her shoot them. They're both 16-inch barrels, but and she wants to spend under $300 for a complete upper, which you can get a PSA or you can get a Bear Creek. She likes to look for the Bear Creek with the free floating hand barrel because it looks cooler. But again, it's about 1.5 pounds heavier than my PSA. That's the same price. So that's where we're kind of tailoring it. She's probably going to get the one like my PSA because of the weight factor. Because again, she's a tiny person.
You got to watch out with those mid links because they come with different barrels. I think the one that you got, the one you bought for me, it's got the thick, is it the government profile barrel, or it's got the thicker barrel? It's got the heavy barrel on it, or it doesn't have like a pencil barrel on it. So that can be a big difference too. When you're buying it, maybe look at getting the pencil barrel because it would weigh even less versus that medium weight barrel that's the SOCOM barrel or whatever it's called that's on the one that you bought for me. That's the same barrel I have in my 2 PSA mid-length uppers also.
Sure.
So that, that can make a difference too. If you get one that's got a thinner barrel, it'll, and I think PSA gives you those options, or I don't know if Bear Creek does, they might, but there was a time when that, some of those guns, like my DPMS Oracle came with a pencil barrel, which is the thinner style barrel. It doesn't have the cut in it, which would have been the slot for the grenade launcher or whatnot. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's different. So, or the government profile barrel. So yeah, I mean, and so hopefully, I don't know if we really led anybody, to the right answer tonight, but the idea is just, you're going to get what you can afford. But do understand that if the gun functions the way it's supposed to, it's going to do the same thing as the more expensive rifle. It's going to, hopefully be as accurate if you practice with it as the more expensive rifle. There may be some subtle differences, in the fit and finish. But the actual function of the rifle should not be any different, whether it's a $500 rifle or a $1,500 rifle. But long-term durability could be a question. Integrity of the hardware and components that put the gun together, that could be a question on the cheaper rifle or not. It just depends. Like I said, I'm running a 6 or 7 year old Bear Creek that's got thousands of rounds through it, and I've got no problems at all. Bear bolt carrier group looks fine, barrel looks fine. But then I've also got the DDM4A1. So it really just kind of comes down to what you want. But if you want something that's, comparable to something being carried by members of the American military, you can get something like the FN M4 Collector's Edition or the DDM4A1 and go that route, or spend the money and get an LMT or a Bravo Company or a Knights Armament. You can get those things, and they could last longer durability wise, but it really depends on what you're thinking. Do you want that as your go to war SHTF rifle, or do you want just something you can shoot on the weekends, home defense, ranch defense, whatever you want to call it, land defense, whatnot? It depends on what you want. So I'm going to say, yeah, there's going to maybe be some differences in the QC in the end, but in terms of overall function, no, probably not. Not that a cheaper gun couldn't fall apart, but I mean, I've got cheaper rifles and they hold up just fine. So I guess it really depends on what kind of a condition you're going to be operating in and what you want it for. So that's really what it comes down to. Patriot in the Dark with the mic drop comment of the evening. Squib's still looking for that cappuccino attachment. I know, Squib, where are you supposed to put your cappuccino maker or your cup holder for your coffee mug if you don't have a quad rail? I mean, what are you going to do, Squib?
So actually, I do have a quad rail. It's in the box. Actually, it's like 4 boxes at this point. 4 boxes of spare parts. But I did buy a quad rail one. Put that thing on there. Go, this thing is stupid. Get off, toss it in the box. Now, if I had a coffee maker that fit on there, maybe I wouldn't have thought it was stupid and kept it on. So there is a possibility it could go back. If he knows where I can get one that I can adapt, or there's an adapter, for my Mr. Coffee, let's send me an email, dude. I'll go look on Amazon for it. Maybe there'll be a video in the future.
We need to have a coffee. We need to have our little mug, get a cup holder that we can bolt onto the quad rail, so we can grab the mug, sip it, and put it back on the end of the rifle, and keep shooting or whatever.
I will say this: I see a lot of people in videos talk about how heavy these guns are, and they're not heavy. by the way. They're not. I mean, you can one-hand one of these things. I'm not saying you're going to hit the target,
husky dude,
but they're not, I'm not a husky dude. I'm normal size, normal height, normal weight, normal. Anyhow,
you're at least a third bigger than me, and you're you know, so
whatever. Anyhow, the point being is these I hear the people in their videos, ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. And then in the next video, they hang everything they can on their AR-15. They'll talk about how light they made it. Then they'll start bolting everything. I guess
infrared laser, you know,
everything. And I'm suddenly like, I thought ounces equal pain, dude. And you're in the video in between the ounces, you know, equal pounds, pounds equal pain. Reason, and this one where you made a Swiss Army knife out of your rifle, you were bragging about how light you made this thing by deleting the bolt carrier group and going with these plastic sights and using the shortest possible barrel and using the thin this and, you know, this polymer instead of calling it plastic. I mean, I'm in a plastic factory. Nobody here uses the word polymer. Okay, that's in order. That's so you don't sound dumb saying, yeah, it's plastic. Okay. So it's really weird. You'll see the 3 videos, and it's an absolute total contradiction.
I have an idea for Squib.
Uh-oh.
So find a French press that attaches via the pick rail and utilizes the forward assist to actuate the plunger.
There you go. There you go. So as you push the forward assist, it pushes down on the plunger on the on the coffee and the grinds in the water.
Yeah,
the coffee grinds in the water. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, that would work out really well, actually. There's got to be a way we can integrate coffee into our AR-15s because right now it's just not there. We need like a cup holder that bolts onto it. So, hey, American Hillbilly, going back to what you were saying with the, you know, the stamped versus milled. I was thinking for AR-15s, I mean, that's a discussion for another time, but, you know, there's a lot of companies that sell milled AK-47s, and those tend to cost a lot more than the stamped receiver AK-47s or not. Like in a situation like that, I mean, I've got a stamped receiver AK-47 that's built on a Hungarian build platform, AMD 63, and it runs fine. So, I mean, that really does kind of come down to budget, because on an AK-47, you know, some people could say, well, if it's milled, it's going to hold up better. It's going to be better. I mean, I think even the bargain basement Wasser, which is, you know, that design is used by people all around the world as just a stamped receiver, and it runs just fine. So maybe if that's what you were thinking of. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I really, what you guys have been talking about, I think, you know, somebody's wanting to know the difference. You know, like I said, you just got to go to a gun range, you know, somewhere where you can try some, because, you know, it's just like any handgun or rifle you picked up, you know, or you shot or own. You know, there's going to be some that is cheaper that's, you know, that you really like, maybe even preferred over one that's more expensive. And so, you know, I think that's kind of the main thing here is just, you know, find something you like and, you know, that works good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, now it's so easy to do your research, but it's also easy to get sold on a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that too. So, you know, it's you might watch one. It's like, oh, I got to go get this rifle because they did, you know, they dumped 17 mags through it and it did full auto before it melted. And that's better than this rifle that did 70 mags at full auto, you know. So it's really hard to kind of figure out. And like when I bought my DPMS, it was all about price point. I had $600. I wanted to get an AR-15. It was the least expensive one I could get at the time. This was many years ago, probably over 10 years ago. And, you know, I decided to just go that route. And then looking back on it, it's like, well, man, a PSA would have been around. I could have got this for $600 instead, you know. And I didn't know about that at the time because I hadn't gotten into the gun culture like we are now, or gotten into YouTube, or joined up with Gun Channels, which is our old little group of friends that kind of brought us all together. So, yeah, it all just kind of comes down to kind of educating yourself. And sometimes the guns just look cool and you just want that model. It's like, oh, that's in your favorite TV show that you watch. You want that gun, you know, or this guy always carries this, you know. So I don't know. All right. I think we will go ahead and call it. So I think we'll go ahead and call it an episode. So hopefully we gave you guys some good advice, some good adventures, some good information here in the end. G23 has a question for you, Squib. Have you ever tried a French press coffee maker yet?
No, I'm not that sophisticated. I've had an espresso before, more than once. That's about as complicated as it gets.
No, the French press is literally you just push down on a plunger and it separates the water from the coffee. That's all it is. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's sophisticated. It makes
sophisticated for me.
All right. I had one I had a God, what is the brand? Bodum brand one for many, many years that I use. I even used it instead of a electric coffee maker. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't like the cleanup afterwards was kind of a pain in the butt. And
I mean, I'm not opposed to another coffee maker, but honestly, there's no counter space left. So Mr. Coffee's going to do the job.
Oh man, I was going to send you an espresso for Christmas. You can't make the footprint of a Pop-Tart on your counter for one more appliance, you know?
Man, I'm telling you what. And why do you think I do videos on the stovetop? There's literally no room on the counter. It's a small house. It's a small house.
That's all right, man. It doesn't matter. It's all good. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and call it for this evening. I want to thank everybody for watching, and hopefully we gave you some good advice. And again, it comes down to budget, personal preference, which one appeals to you the most. By and large, I would just say a lot of the ARs that you get these days, they're all, they're sourced, many of them from the same parts factories, but they're, again, fit and finish could be the main difference in the end. It's really what it comes down to. But the key is to get it out and shoot it. And if it runs well for you, then just, you'll be happy with what you have. So, all right, let's go ahead and close this one up. Hillbilly, I'm going to go ahead and give you some final words here as we go around the panel to close out the discussion. Want to plug your channel? Anything you want to say? Yeah, go right ahead, sir.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Travis, for having me on here. I sure appreciate that. And if you don't know, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Hillbilly Up. That's my gun channel. And I also have another channel called American Hillbilly. We just kind of do other things on there that don't include guns. So, but I mean, we just try to have fun, and show a few guns, maybe find a few budget guns. I'm almost to where I'm about to call it the High Point channel.
Oh yeah,
every time I do a High Point
you're not going to
video, it
here,
just skyrockets in views. I mean, doggone it.
Like 8 out of 10 of us here won't admit it, but we have at least one High Point in our collection, whether it's a carbine or we've had a 9mm in the past or a 45 or whatnot. So
yeah. And it's like you take the High Point to the gun range and everybody wants to shoot the darn thing.
What is that thing like? It's like, you don't have one. These are the coolest things. Say, this is the new Glock. This is the new Glock. This is their Gen 2 prototypes.
Yeah,
the Gen 6 Glock is what this is. They're going to a new single stack format. So yeah.
But no, we just try to have fun and hopefully provide good content over there for people to enjoy and and just maybe see a gun or something on there they might like and go look at one or hopefully help them make a choice from one to another or something. So
okay.
I mean, but we sure appreciate you.
Yeah,
letting us
guys,
be
we should
on
check out the
here.
channels. Yeah.
And all these other guys on here, man, you guys are just awesome. Appreciate y'all.
Oh, we've had many years of arguing together, so we're just one big dysfunctional family is really what it comes down to. So
all right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate having you here. So cool. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Travis T, we'll get to the poll. Definitely get to the poll before we close out the show. So we'll definitely check it out. So I'm kind of curious to see what people thought. All right, Outcast, anything you want to say before we go?
Just thanks for the invite. Hope everybody has a great night.
rnldisplays.com. Get over there. It is the finer way to what do we say? Fine furniture for your AR, or the more refined way to display your AR-15. So, by the way, that AR-15, it will balance a SetMe C308, just for the record. So, surprisingly, it will actually sit level because it gets right up in the magwell and it's flat. So I discovered that one time. Yeah. So anyway, guys, New York Outcast, make sure you check out his channel and support rnldisplays.com. Again, veteran-owned, American-made, awesome gun stands for your firearms. Do check it out. And Rob, I hope to see you here in the future again too, man. All right, and Squib, any final words of wisdom you want to give us? Anything you want to say before we go?
With an AR-15, maybe there's some brand loyalty there when you're buying certain things, parts or just a whole rifle. Maybe you're just buying the one that has the price that you think is a good balance. If you pay too little, you think you're getting junked. If you pay too much, you think you're getting ripped off. Or maybe you just only buy the cheapest stuff out there, and that's just who you are. Or maybe it's just who has it in stock, really, because we've seen them dry up. We've seen prices go through the roof. We've seen them come back down. We've seen companies introduce an AR-15 that is the same as everybody else's, but they want 2, 3, 4 times as much, and there's absolutely no reason other than the name. Sometimes that's why people buy them, is strictly the name. I got to tell you, The last AR-15 I bought was strictly because I knew New York Outcast didn't have one, so I had to get one first. So he's all about Smith & Wesson. That's his favorite brand, and his AR-15 is not a Smith & Wesson. So I had to buy a Smith & Wesson AR-15 just because I wanted to have one before him.
And you know that's reason enough to do so. You got to one up the Joneses, right? Awesome, man. Cool. All right. Well, glad to have you here, and I appreciate your insight on the whole parts thing, you know, when it comes to building one and the part suppliers and how little we might be, how much some of these have in common and we don't necessarily realize it. And again, a lot of it comes down to brand hype and marketing and advertising and stuff. And that, you know, get whatever works best for you. You get what appeals most to you. So, all right. And last but not least, my neighbor to the east, Defense Dad, any final words you want to say before we go?
No, good show. It's always fun talking about the ARs. That's about it.
Guys, make sure you go check out Sandhills Media. Do you know Defense Dad, is Sandhills doing a show tonight?
Yeah.
He sent out links.
He just sent out links. Okay, I'll be checking my email here shortly. So yeah, make sure you guys check out Sandhills Media. Awesome discussions. Their show's on at in about 30 minutes, 8 o'clock Central Time. So do check it out. It's a lot of fun. Let me check the private chat here. So, oh yeah, I'll let you guys deal with that. The poll before we go. So the question that I had was, have you ever spent $1,000 or more on a factory-built 5.56 AR or 223 Wild / 223 Remington AR-15? I was trying to cover all the variants. 28% said yes, and 72% said no. So I wasn't talking about like a highly customized, machined, hydro-dipped, skull lower AR. I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about just a standard build that you're used to, but maybe, you know, it's a certain brand or whatnot. So 72% of you said no, and 28% of you said yes. I would definitely be in the yes category. Not that I'm going to do that too often because it took me a while to pay it off, and it's paid off now. But again, I took the dip and I don't regret it. It's cool to have it, you know. So anyway, all right. So I think that's it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Shout out to Hillbilly Up, the Armsman, Travis T, Gizzard Gary, Corey Long, G23, Patriot in the Dark. Let's see, Travis T, Mad Sex, he's out there. And who else was watching tonight? Jason Stewart's. G23 was out there. Watt 75. Let's see. You guys had a lot of dialogue going on tonight. JH586 in the house. Tacos and French Fries was out there. Irish Wrist Watcher was out there tonight too. Eduardo Espinosa watching in. Bald and Curious checking out the show. Good to have you stopping by, bud. Boston was out there also tonight. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Defense Dad, everybody on the panel, obviously. I appreciate having you guys here. It's always awesome to have you stopping by. I think that's pretty much about it. Scott 79, G-Webs was out there also. Kingpin was watching. Tommy Gun, Drucifer. Let's see. Broke Loader 2 out there also watching this evening. Vanessa Kitty. I think that's pretty much about it. And Calaveras 32 special. DJ Play Nice in the house. Kristen the 740. And that's it. So, guys, I want to thank you all for watching this evening and appreciate you checking it out. So, like I said, I'm going to be taking a break from the Thursday night shows for a while until things slow down with work here a little bit, but I'll keep doing the Saturday morning show. We will see you guys on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time when we talk about 243 Winchester for episode number 243. So it's not that often we do a caliber that matches the same number as the episode, but we're going to talk 243, look a little bit into the history of it. It's really a fascinating caliber. And why is it, you know, really one of the most popular go-to rounds for American hunters? So, and international too, abroad. It's interesting that 243 is very popular in several European countries, and we'll discuss why. So this has been Caliber Corner Weekly Edition. Make sure you guys check out Sandhills Media. Excellent podcast going on this evening. I want you guys to have fun. I want you to be safe. And as you know, we will talk to you soon.